Then one day I was filming something and I smashed the camera. I did actually at least break it doing something cool. It was when I was building my tower, putting the top on it. I had it up on the top of the tower on a tripod filming myself, and I think a big gust of wind got it and it fell all the way from the top to the ground. And I was like, "Oh man, that's like $400 right there. Let me." I turned on. That's when the day I turned on the monetization thing to replace that camera. This is Andrew Camarata here. I have a YouTube channel with my name, Andrew Camarata. I do a lot of construction work, welding work. Built a very unique building, which is all covered on there. Talking here with Sid Phillips today. You got a bunch of questions for me here?
Yeah, mate. Welcome to the Proper Job podcast.
It was Cody's birthday today,
It is. He is 1 years old.
and Levi's still going strong.
Yeah, he's doing good. He's like 14 and 5 months, something like that. 14 years. But he's doing good. We had a good day today. Really nice weather out today.
I mean, yeah, we're getting into winter though, so it's getting cold. Tell me a little bit about the heating solutions you have for the place where you live.
It's only one little room I heat.
Right.
So it's really easy to keep it heated, because to try to heat that whole building would be hard because it's enormous. Although I did just install a pellet stove on the second floor, and it definitely warms it up, but it hasn't gotten real cold yet. So I'll see how it works once it's wintertime. But it's a huge building and it's not insulated, so heating the whole thing will be a little tricky.
Yeah, yeah.
But I usually don't care. I mean, I don't mind just letting it be the same temperature as it is outside. I just kind of feel like if I just force myself to get used to it, yeah, it's tough for a few weeks, the first few real cold weeks, but then I just get used to it and it's really not bad.
Yeah, just put more layers on, eh?
What kind of, I mean, the trick is to kind of freeze yourself early on. Like when you start wanting to put on a coat, like in November, December, the trick is not to just get used to it. And then once it actually gets cold, I'm generally used to it by then. So
I think that's what actually appealed to me most about your videos is your problem solving, and if you can't solve it, well, your work ethic allows you to overcome it. And that makes me wonder, like, how did you get on in school?
I did the regular high school thing to 12th grade. And then
Mm-hmm.
one great thing I did do, they have this trade school program at high school where you take the bus essentially to another building. And I took computer repair in that. And that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff. I also took small engine repair in high school. That was good. Then after high school, I went to college for more computer repair stuff, computer networking. But then I kind of realized I did not want to do that as a job. But I also went back to that trade school and took some welding classes and some auto repair classes. But I wouldn't say that's the only place I learned from, probably far from it. But it was still a good experience to see a lot of that stuff.
How did you get on the school system though? Did you kind of fit in with the whole like sort of lesson planning and structure, or did you find it a little bit tough for someone like you who seems to like to do things his own way?
I did all right. I didn't do as well with some classes in high school, like English and Spanish class. For some reason, I didn't learn a drop of Spanish. That was a waste of time.
Hmm.
But I did well with math and science. Those are the ones I did good at.
So what was it about the computer repair that appealed to you at the time?
I mean, my dad had computers early on, and I always spent time with him. Even like our first computer, we had a Zeos 386. It was like a 33 megahertz computer, and it was it was there early on, so it just kind of was fun to use. So
Oh, right. Okay. So, did the passion for making and fixing things, did that come from your dad too?
yeah, one thing we would do was we'd get stuff a lot of times are broken, sometimes even just out of the dump. People would throw stuff out all the time, and we'd take things, fix it, and then have like a perfectly useful item for essentially no money or very cheap.
That should be taught in school, shouldn't it? Because that's a very useful skill to have.
Yeah, it definitely is. We've had the small engines class in school. That was useful because we're working on engines, rebuilding them, lawnmowers and stuff. But it teaches you quite a bit.
So obviously, once you've done the whole school system and you've learnt these trades, is that what made you then get into the property maintenance business?
That kind of happened as a little bit more of a necessity. So after doing school, I got a job working at the post office delivering mail, and that was a pretty cool job. I mean, I had other jobs too, but the post office at least paid somewhat decent. But I didn't want to work for computers and I was delivering mail. But then I also kind of realized I really wanted to buy a piece of property. So I kind of was working hard, saving money for that. But then I kind of then I bought an excavator. I was like, oh, I can make money with this. I bought a bulldozer. I was like, all right, I can make money with that and I can use it on my property. Plus, operating that equipment really appealed to me. So that's pretty much what got me started, was because I was doing it on both fronts because I needed it for my own property, and I figured it was stuff that was a good investment that I could make money with operating or rent it out, or it just seemed like it made sense all the way around. And years later, yes, it did make sense. So
Yeah, I agree. It definitely worked out for you. I just want to move on to the house you built. To give a little bit of context to the people listening, you actually built this house yourself with very little help from others. You utilised the vast amount of machinery you have, including your own crane. I mean, building your own place is already pretty impressive, but it's not exactly a normal looking house either. It utilises a bunch of cargo shipping containers, some on the horizontal, some rotated 90 degrees so they're vertical. It's 4 floors high and it's made to look like a castle.
yeah, pretty much.
I take it was obviously a goal for you to build your own place?
Yeah, that was a goal. That because I mean, who wants to live? Before that, I lived with my parents. Like, who wants to do that? I skipped the whole, apartment phase thing. I just seemed like that was always just a complete waste of money. So I went straight from, and I knew I wanted to build my building the way I wanted to build it. So I was only looking at vacant pieces of property, and that's all I could afford too. So
It's a lovely bit of land, though.
yeah, it's up on a hill. I think that's why it was a decent price at the time when I got it, because it was all a hillside. So, but yeah, that's what I wanted on the edge of town because I didn't want neighbors. I wanted a big lot because I always do things that annoy neighbors. So it's best just that you need a lot of land for doing stuff like what I'm doing. So
So where did the idea come from to build a container castle?
that came from, well, the idea appealed to me because the containers are relatively cheap and are really strong. So I figured I could put up a fireproof building that could go up very fast, and I wanted it to be indestructible as far as not getting damaged from, fire or time or storm. Like one time, Hurricane Irene, I had a ton of trees fall down, knock down buildings, damage buildings. I saw plenty of other people's with their buildings damaged. When I was with the fire department, it was like we'd go to these house fires, and I was like, why would anyone build? And you'd see these houses burn down, and like, why would anyone make something out of wood? That's just crazy. So that's what appealed to me. I made the entire building out of steel and concrete. And since I'm, a welder, so it just was a lot easier to build it out of steel anyway. And plus, like when you start doing the math too, it's almost cheaper to build the way I built. Like it's kind of expensive, but it's kind of not.
So did you have the design idea in your head?
Yes. Well, it took me a while. I knew I wanted to do something like that. It just took a while to figure out how to do it because I wanted a concrete roof at first,
Okay.
and I didn't know how to do that. And then someone suggested Spancrete to me, which is like a precast concrete slab that can be a roof. And then once I started learning about all these different materials, it just kind of came together.
I know from watching your videos you're upgrading the house too. You're building on top of the roof, and I've seen you utilising SketchUp, and it seems you're pretty proficient at it. Was that something you learnt in school?
I did not learn that from school. The way I learned SketchUp was when I first designed my building. I got an engineer involved to help me with the plan. So first, when I designed my building, I actually made a little model of it, just out of like balsa wood and wood and cardboard, just stuff like that. And that's something my dad had did too. Once when we put a big addition on our house in the early 90s, my dad actually did a really good job making the addition out of cardboard. But I mean, the thing looks like a photo of the house. Everything's colored right and perfect. And then he essentially showed it to the carpenter and said, "Build this. This is the addition." So I just kind of went the same route. I built my building I made a model. And then when I was talking to the engineer with the plans, he ended up drawing the whole building in SketchUp, and that's how we were able to communicate through, emails, just emailing the building and the revisions back and forth. And then, SketchUp was pretty easy to use. You can teach yourself how to use it with the tutorials that are available. So, but that's how I kind of forced myself to learn how to use it.
Yeah, you talk about your dad and like learning the sort of like how to fix things and the computer things. You've also got a very high skill level when it comes to business, I feel. Was that something else that came from your dad?
Uh, no, he didn't do any business stuff. I mean, he had a dump truck when I was a little kid and did gravel deliveries, but it never got much more than that. I mean, he worked at the post office too, so
Right, okay.
as a postmaster, and that's how I got started there.
And you also said something about the being in the fire service.
Yeah, well, that's just a volunteer
Ah,
thing. I did that for about 4 years. I mean, that's a great thing to do to help the community. I mean, it's a little tough to be volunteering all your time to it's essentially a job you don't get paid for, but it was still a good thing to do. I'm not in it right anymore, but
yeah, because in the second edition of the build of your house, you do talk a lot about fire safety,
uh-huh.
and I take it that's come from this volunteer experience.
Yeah, I got a lot of training out of that, and I kind of learned how not to build a building.
So, did you have the business before that, the property maintenance business?
I mean, it's kind of hard to pick a complete start time. I mean, as I was delivering mail, I started picking up like lawn mowing jobs, but they didn't really pay anything.
Uh huh.
But then once I got that first excavator, I started taking excavation jobs, and then started realizing, I really like doing this, and this can turn into a position where I actually make money. I mean, you feel like you're making money because, like, you get paid a lot in jobs, but you always end up putting it right back into the business. But then it was kind of, I made a slow transition into that business because I was delivering mail, but it wasn't a full-time job. So it actually worked out really well because I had time to do both things. So it's like, it'd be tough for someone who's working a full-time job to just quit what they're doing to start a business. That's hard. That's a hard transition. I slowly eased into it. So because of that, though, it's a little tricky to pick a start time. I mean, I guess you could almost say when I quit the post office is when I was 100% full time, but I was working pretty steadily, for years too. Anyway, while I was still there. So
How long ago was that then?
2010, 12. I don't know. I feel like I should know this. Maybe 11.
2011. So sort of
Probably right.
9 years kind of
Yeah,
going then.
nine years. Let's say I quit the post office 9 years ago, which geez, that seems like a long time, but that's maybe not. Gee, I feel like I should know that.
Time
Yeah,
flies, eh?
I should have. I should have quit sooner. I know that.
I talk about the business, sort of your entrepreneurship. I think that's the right word to use. Is that one of the things I was watching your videos? A tip you gave out for someone who perhaps wanted to get into something, which is similar to property maintenance, was you would go past yards, and if you'd see they were untidy, you'd kind of go and knock on the door and pitch your services.
Yeah, that has worked well in the past.
Any tips for someone who wants to get into property management?
Yeah, make sure you do a good job and your customers are happy, because most of my jobs were all like word of mouth. So if people aren't happy with things you do, you're not going to have that.
Best way of gaining business, isn't it? Word of mouth. There's not much that comes through sort of advertising. It's always word of mouth, I find.
I mean, there's both. I mean, one thing, when I was advertising, I used to advertise like brush hogging and lawn mowing, and sometimes like you'd show up to do something like that, and then you get your foot in it. Like if you meet cool people doing that, and then like they'll have other projects, and that's too, like you could suggest stuff to people too. Um, so I've gotten jobs that way. You're there mowing a lawn or something, and then and then there's a tree job or.
Have you been always that kind of guy, that sort of get up and go attitude?
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. Here's another example too. Even when I'd be out doing anything, even delivering mail, I remember for a while I was fixing lawnmowers, and like I'd be you'd be driving by someone and hear that their lawnmower is running rough. Like there was these one Briggs and Stratton mowers that were super popular, and they needed this fuel pump installed about every 5 years, but people didn't know that. And you'd hear them like running really bad, and I'd stop, say, "Hey, I could fix that mower for $40, make it run like new again." And I got a lot of them just like that. Like, "Hey, I'll pick it up and drop it off tomorrow." And people were always thrilled to have their mower working perfect for $40. And it'd be like a $3 fuel pump that people didn't know about. That was super easy to change. So, but yeah, I did a lot of lawnmower repairs too, because you could, for kids that want to start doing something, it's because people lawnmowers around here, like they'll stop running. Those push mowers, they'll stop running. People, they throw them out and buy a new one. So it's super easy to get them broken for free or very cheap, and then they're usually pretty easy to fix. And then you can put an ad. I was selling them on Craigslist. I put an ad on Craigslist like lawnmowers for sale, and then I'd write in the ad like, "Hey, I'll take trade-ins too." And a lot of times people bring in broken ones as a trade-in. You knock off $5-10 or whatever on their mower sale, and then but you keep getting mowers to fix. And so it was, I don't know. It was, yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Are you surprised about what people, the kind of machines people throw out?
No, I'm not surprised, because you could see it gets. Depends on the position you're in. If you're making good money or whatever, and you don't know how to fix a lawnmower, and some of the people who fix them are charging too much or whatever, no, it's not. It's not surprising. I mean, a little bit, because sometimes stuff's really easy to fix. I mean, not everyone makes the best decisions, you could say. So that's probably one way to look at it. Like, oh, that someone throwing something out that was fixable isn't a good call. But
Because that's how you source most of your equipment, isn't it?
it had been, yeah, when I was first starting out and couldn't afford stuff.
Right, so it's
Yes.
sort of a necessity thing at the time.
Yeah.
And that's now sort of like shifted a little bit because you're kind of like purchasing sort of new equipment now.
Yeah. I mean, that should be a goal of anyone's business, to not be using junk the whole time. But I still have a lot of the first pieces I bought too. Like that first excavator I ever bought, I still have that. That's been, I've had that like 12 years now, and it's been fine.
And have you always brought sort of purchase machines as you're going, as you get a job to do and you might not have a particular piece of equipment, you'll get it to do that job? Or do you see sort of adverts and say, right, I can fix that, and then get the machine that way?
Both, definitely both.
So you sound kind of like gather the equipment as you go along, and then you can obviously expand your business into different areas.
I'll buy stuff that just looks neat too. I mean, if you watch my video, you see that trench digger. I wasn't looking for one of those at all, but it was just for sale locally, and I was like, oh, let's give this machine a try. Just
So is it the curiosity of how the machine works, or a challenge to see if you can work it and fix it?
both.
So I want to talk about your kind of your jobs, because I've got some written down here and you can add to them. I've got mechanic, builder, videographer, YouTuber, business owner, machinist, welder, property maintenance business.
Yeah, I guess you could put them all into separate categories. I mean, you could call them a few jobs, because yeah, there's people out there who specialize in any one of those, and I mean, to do what I'm doing, I kind of needed to be able to do all that different stuff.
And a bit of a plug for people who are listening. Do you design your own merchandise too?
I have those T-shirts. I don't know if I was gonna keep. That's kind of more work than it's worth selling those things. I don't know how people want to push those, so I almost kind of hide that I'm selling those. But
Yeah, I checked out the eBay
yeah,
link on your Instagram.
yeah. I still have T-shirt. I think when I run out this time, I don't think I'm gonna get more. So yeah. I did design those. I used the back has a photo of my castle, so essentially that was a photo I took with my drone, and then used Photoshop to make it look right as a black and white, or two color thing on a T-shirt. So yeah, that's one thing I learned in school. We did have a Photoshop class in high school, and that
Right.
was useful, and HTML.
Do you think that's where the kind of the light bulb or the seed was planted for kind of starting the videos for YouTube?
Um, that that's a good question. I was videotaping stuff pretty early on, because my dad got a video camera right as they kind of first came out. It was a type where it was a handheld camera, but then you had to carry the VCR with you in a
Oh wow.
bag. Yeah, because it took the full-size VHS tapes, but it was, pretty much you're carrying the whole VCR with you. So, yeah, I used to play with that video camera when I was little, and then I got a newer one, which recorded on, like, VHS-C tapes, which was a little bit better because you didn't have to carry a VCR with you. Um, but then when I first got my first GoPro, that really changed things because that was a, much more practical camera to use.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always like taking photos and videos, and it's cool to be able to, videotape. It's cool that people are interested in the stuff I'm doing, and I'm able to share it with people, so easily with this great camera equipment that's come out in the past 10 years or so. Yeah, I should have started sooner.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question. Your first video I've got when I looked on your YouTube was published 2016, 11th of Feb.
Yeah, that's when I started putting it on YouTube. I really should have started sooner, but before YouTube, I used to have this web server just kind of hosted off my computer at my house, and I'd share stuff that way. I guess in as far as videos, like the one I did where it was titled me talking about every vehicle I've ever had. That one's got a lot of really old footage in it. I mean, it's even got some stuff in there, I think when I was like 4 years old, I talked about every car I've ever had. So I even had me in my Power Wheels Jeep when I was like 3 or 4 years old, had me in my first three-wheeler when I was 7 years old, my first four-wheeler when I was, I don't know, 10 years old. That's got some old stuff in it.
So you've always kind of collected the footage and stored it then?
Yes.
Right, okay. So you've always wanted to film things?
Yeah, I always pretty much did.
Okay, and then you kind of upload your first video to YouTube. When did you kind of see the results of, I suppose, people wanting to watch your videos?
I don't even know why I started doing it. I think I started doing it because I always thought time-lapse stuff looked cool,
Hmm.
and the GoPro was set up to do time-lapse stuff. So if you look, a lot of my oldest videos are just time-lapse because it seemed like a neat way to film the excavation videos. But then I kind of realized, oh, well, I can, the whole video shouldn't just be a time lapse. I should do some normal speed stuff and explain the project and do like an outro. And then I make sure whenever I do a video that it always tells a complete story. I think that's, key to why my videos are pretty watchable, because a lot of people, they'll put videos up, but it doesn't always make sense to the person watching because it's not, because the person watching isn't there. They don't know what, all the stuff that as a video taper. So you got to tell the story properly for someone else to watch, because then so they can be entertained and understand what's happening. And I'm sure there's like film school and stuff that teaches all that stuff, but
Oh yeah, there is. But obviously,
yeah,
you didn't go
yeah,
to that, did you? Where did you
no.
pick up where did you pick up these sort of like ideas on how to like you said, it needs to tell a story. Where did you realize that?
Well, probably just from watching stuff. It's not a bad idea to just go watch bad YouTube videos and then almost kind of take notes. Why is this video bad? What could have fixed it? I mean, one guy I was watching on YouTube for a while, it was called Bad Movie Reviews, and he would just watch all these movies and just explain the problems with them, whether it be the storytelling or cinematography errors, or, I mean, you name it. But I mean, that's the other thing too, this cinematography. Like, I always push hard to make sure all my camera gear is as good as it could be, as far as the audio being good and it looking right. And
So when did you see kind of your sort of, I suppose, success in your view from YouTube?
one day I just noticed I was putting videos up and I was posting them on, I think, Facebook, just to share with people I know locally. But then all of a sudden I was noticing I was getting like subscribe. I didn't even realize the subscriber thing. I was all of a sudden like, oh, look at all these people subscribing to my stuff, and I just kept on doing it. And I never even started. I know a lot of people want to get on YouTube because they hear you can make money, and yes, that's true. But I didn't even know that when I first started doing it. I was just doing it for fun, and I didn't even want to monetize is the word for that. I didn't even want to monetize them. I was like, no, that ruins them. It adds ads to them. I mean, these videos, like, I do spend every night editing probably a good 3-4 hours for the, because I do everything myself. It'd be nice to hire like an editor, but it's all me. And it is a full-time job editing stuff.
I think that's the kind of the key takeaway message, and that don't get into things for the money. It's got to be about the passion.
Yeah, 100%. And usually the money it appears even when you're not pushing for it. If you're doing something you're passionate about, whether it's an art or anything, it will make sense if you're good at it.
So that kind of started off with just filming your jobs, did it? Because at the you say you spend 4 hours to 3 hours a day editing. Has that shifted how you are with your maintenance business?
I remember for a while I was doing lawnmowers. I remember at night when it got dark out, I would always figure I could fix like 2 or 3 push mowers a night. So I'd be working on them till about, I'm kind of a night owl or whatever you call that, and I'd be working till about midnight every night fixing lawnmowers. But since I've been busy editing now, I'm doing that instead of stuff like that. I mean, yes, I do get less stuff done because of the amount of time I spend in front of a computer editing. Like, imagine if I didn't have to do that. I could be something could be in the garage right now getting I mean, my dump truck's in the garage right now and needs a bunch of body work. I could be doing anything inside, really.
You obviously enjoy making these videos.
Yeah.
Does performance motivate you too?
Performance of what?
So watch count and other engagement metrics.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make stuff that people want to see. So if a video doesn't do well, or I mean, not well, I mean, I guess not every subject's going to be as appealing as the others, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the jobs I take now, I try to pick the work I do based on how interesting it is.
Right, okay.
So I gave up a lot of repetitive jobs I took. I used to do a lot of just gravel deliveries. There's really no video out of that, or very minimal. Plus it gets really repetitive. So now I'm just like, if a job is interesting, I'll take it. I mean, a good example is like that. I think my best video on YouTube as far as view count is moving this antique truck, and I remember actually that truck, like, I saw the ad come up because it was local. It was like, oh, free oil truck. It was a really cool looking oil truck for free across the river. And then my buddy calls me up. He's like, "Hey, you want to help me move this truck? I want it." I was like, "Oh, you want that oil truck? Yeah, let's go grab it." I knew that'd be a cool video, right from the start. And yeah, and it was. That was my buddy wanted that antique truck for his shop. He's gonna make it into a sign, but it was sitting way back in the woods with no tires on it. Had been there 30 plus years. The property had just sold, but the one neighbor came over as we were messing with it. He's like, "Oh, this truck," he's an older guy. And he's like, "This truck has been here since I've been a little kid." Gave us the whole history on the thing. And he was glad to see it go to a good home, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, scrap metal." Like, no, dude, that's not scrap metal. Come on, this is cool. It's like, and my friend, we brought it back. Took us a while to get the thing on a trailer. It took every bit of 3 excavators
Yeah.
to get that thing moved. And then, that was quite the show right there. And then, we got on the trailer, unloaded it. It's still sitting in front of my friend's house, but he's going to get that thing running. People keep asking about it. He got a new motor and transmission for it, because the motor it's in is completely locked up. But yeah, I take jobs based on how interesting I figured they'll be. So
That's a nice way to be, isn't it, at the moment, being able to sort of pick and choose the work.
yeah, I mean, another great thing that's happened from it is I spent most of the year just working on my own building, and I'm glad I was in a position where I was able to do that, because I wasn't stuck having to take all these different jobs to make money. I was able to just to do something like that, whole cost money the whole project. But
And you're going to glaze that, are you? You're planning on enclosing that whole metal roof structure?
yeah, pretty much since June I've been working pretty much full time on closing that whole thing in, and I am extremely close to being done. The All the walls got made out of steel diamond plate with like metal studs. Everything's made out of steel, like thick steel, either 1/8 inch or 3/16 thick. And I put in a bunch of windows, and it's sealed the whole building up. And there'll be a video on that probably towards the end of November.
Right, okay. There's been a lot of work in that, hey?
It's probably 4 or 5 months of work covered in that one video. I don't know how long. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 hours long, but just covering all the, yeah, that's why I haven't had a lot of videos out in the past few months, is because I've been doing that. And there's a lot of days where it's like not that much interesting stuff happened. Like a whole day will maybe be minutes in the video.
Yeah, because there's a lot of welding. 80%
Yeah.
of what I see you doing on that was welding. I guess you must be surprised in a way that people are watching your videos when you are doing those sometimes.
Yeah, it's neat to know people are interested in what I'm doing.
Because what brought me into your video was when you were building the container home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's got like a couple of million hits, but you like just before I came on the call, I checked your best performing video, and I think it's like 15 million or 12 million on doing the driveway,
Really?
the gravel
Okay.
driveway. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun one.
Are you
Fun video.
surprised how sometimes some videos take off and then some don't?
Yeah, yeah, that one went better than I expected.
So when you were saying like
'Cause-
obviously trying to get that truck out, the stuck truck, do
mhm.
you have ideas beforehand of what you're gonna create in terms of content, or does it sort of come on the fly?
Both.
Right. Okay.
Both. I mean, a lot of projects I'll almost make a storyboard of, it's rare that I write like down scripts not really script, more of a storyboard, but usually it's just in my head. A few examples of times where I've actually had to write down a big list of things to get for a video. Like the video I did on excavator thumbs, and unfortunately that one didn't get the views it probably deserved, the amount of information and work I put into that one. But I guess it's probably a little too much on the educational side, but but that one I had like a whole clipboard of shots I had to get for the day, and almost like a script of things I needed to say, because I was like thinking about that one for almost like a year, just because people kept asking me all these, and it's all it is on excavator thumbs, and people kept asking me all these questions on excavator thumbs, and I was like, all right, let me answer all these questions in one video. I tried to cover everything I could think of, and I think I pretty much nailed it in that video.
Do you enjoy the sense of community on YouTube?
Yeah, I've met a lot of cool people from there too. Um, People watching the videos, and then it's local people, or even if they're not local. I've met people online. I mean, this is one guy I met on there who helps me out with computer stuff, pretty regularly, and we've never met before, but just we talk. And if I ever have a computer question, he's right there, because that's what he's doing all day every day is computer stuff. So it's like he knows, he's got it. But yeah, I've met a lot of cool people from YouTube too. That one video I put up where I was welding, and then this guy texted me. He's like, "Hey, I live a few hours from you. I watched your video where you got all that welding that needs to be done. That's a crazy amount of work. Can I come up and help you weld?" And I was like, yeah. I was like, come over. And the guy was super cool. We ended up going jet skiing a few times this year. And he stayed up there. He was up there like 2-3 days, just welding full time with me. And we really got caught up on the welding, because at that stage in the project, I was working with two other guys putting all the steel in place. And we'd be setting all these big beams and stuff. And then, I'd weld them enough so they're not moving anywhere. But as a full product, I wanted everything fully welded to everything, which really isn't necessary, but I just kind of built it that way anyway. And that was nice that guy came and help catch it up.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I find entertaining, and I also feel it can fit into like perhaps the negative side of YouTube, is some of the comments that people leave. I want to call them couch mechanics, where they think they know everything, and kind of tell you how it is. Does that affect you in any kind of way? These people who do leave perhaps comments that are negative.
A little bit. I mean, you kind of have to have thick skin if you're putting yourself out on the internet like that. I do gotta say though, my videos are probably, I get a lot less of that than I'm sure plenty of other people too. And the other way to look at it too is, I'm putting on stuff on there to start discussions on projects. So if someone has a different opinion on how to do something, maybe they represented their opinion with the wrong tone. Unfortunately, like, they don't have to go throwing an insult on something too if they don't like the way you're doing something. But I do try to answer questions. I mean, there's not a lot of that. It is, a little frustrating when you see that too. But when you're putting yourself out there, that's just part of it.
Yeah, it just
So
comes with it, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it does bug. Leaving mean comments like that though is kind of, it can bug people. So it does bug people sometimes. But
No, it's understandable. Like
you
so,
try not to. Yeah.
other people can read it from an entertainment factor, and I also see there are your fans who do back you up and sort of like shoot down these people as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think the word for that is trolls. Sometimes they'll go. I mean, the best way to do it, if you're going to be a troll, is to try to leave like a witty kind of comment. But um, I don't. I mean, I don't have a lot of it. It's rare. It's very rare that I have to like remove a comment from YouTube or something like that. So
Have you got any tips for anyone who wants to get into YouTube?
that one video I did on the talking about every vehicle I've ever done, I wanted to have really good audio for that, so I went and got this. So it's made by Shure, but it's like a audio interface, I think it's called, and it takes the like the professional type microphone with the big plug. And the big difference I noticed was even all the computer mics I had, no matter what, when you weren't making noise, there was always a hiss in the background. I could, even if it was very slight. When I got this, there is zero hiss whatsoever. So just so the audio can be as good as it can be.
Yeah, that's a good point, having good audio quality. My audio's appalling. I'm at my mate's place at the moment and the fridge hums. I also don't have a good microphone to begin with. I'm just recording directly onto my iPad. So no complaints, please, to the people who are listening. What I think is actually more important is the ability to tell a good story or film in a sequence that allows that story to be told, like you do with your videos. Have you got any tips when it comes to filming or the way you set up cameras?
I mean, yeah, it falls into the cinematography category and making sure your cinematography is good as far as the, I mean, audio is a big one. Like wind is a good way to mess up audio. Um, make sure all the levels are proper. Don't drown stuff out with music. That was one big complaint I used to get. Was too much music, too loud of music. So the only time I'll have music is if there's no sound whatsoever. But now even a lot of drone footage, I try to get audio for it. If there's audio that's available, like if I'm using the drone to film a machine or something, and it makes sense to have audio, I'll capture it now. I'll use the I'll pull it from the GoPro. You do the clap to line it up. 3, 2, 1, clap, and then you got the audio for then bind that audio to the drone video.
What do you think to these new cameras that can film a complete 360 image? Are you a fan of those? Do you use them at all?
Yeah, I use those all the time. They work excellent. I have the GoPro. I think it's called a Max. It does the best on a selfie stick. Doing selfie stuff. So close up stuff, action stuff works really well because the stabilization is unlimited. Because it's impossible to shake it because it's recording every direction. And yeah, I've seen excellent results of the thing. For that application. I mean, you're probably not going to record a whole video with a 360 camera, but there's and there's two ways to deal with that footage. So the first way, the way I've been doing it is you get the 360 files off the computer, then essentially what you're going through, because it records every direction. So before editing, what I'll do is I'll go through that file and I'm aiming the camera where the camera's looking, where the end user is going to end up watching. So that's a little bit of a chore right there. Um, but it works because it does a really good job for some applications, that type of camera. The other way to deal with the 360 footage is to just upload it as a 360 file, and then the end user, the person watching, has the option to look wherever they want. And that the first time you see it, it does seem super cool. Like, oh wow, this is really cool. But then you kind of realize it's a little bit of a job to keep having to look in the right spot when me, the person who edited, could have just did that job for them. The one exception to that, which doesn't totally fit with my videos, is you can upload it. Sometimes some different people may want to look in different spots. A good example is that, like, if you're doing a 360 tour of a house as maybe a realtor or something, so you go through it, you just walk through the house recording, and then people watching the video, they can look wherever they want to look. That's one application where there's probably a better way to deal with the footage.
You have a great attitude as it is with kind of things that if something's broken and you try one method and you're very happy to show your methods failing and then trying to overcome them. Is that something you want to demonstrate, that failing is okay?
Yeah, I mean that's how you learn a lot of stuff, is from failing. Because you could demonstrate, like, oh, here's a way to do it. Didn't work. And you just and then maybe take a step back, reapproach it with a different method. But it's good to show, because sometimes, like, I'll do something and then someone will suggest like, "Oh, why didn't you do it this way?" And I'm like, "Well, I did try it that way. It didn't work or wouldn't work." Or so it's nice to show just the whole process.
So, what are the kind of plans for the future? Did YouTube surprise you? Because I expect you're making a nice living from YouTube.
It's happened slow. I mean, I guess the best way is exciting because it opens up. I'm not stuck doing things I don't want to do. So, I mean, like I was saying before, I was able to, I'm not by any means being lazy at all. I spent the whole year working on my building, and I'm glad I was in a position where I was able to do that. As far as future, I mean, yeah, I know the future coming. I can't wait for this building phase that I'm in right now to be done, because I'm going to start taking a lot more jobs for customers again, because that's been pretty light for the year because of the building. Um, so, because and people have been asking, like, does this guy take jobs anymore? I'm like, yes, I do. I'm just finishing this building that took the whole year, which I didn't want to spend a whole year building it, but that's just how long it took. So yeah, there'll be a lot more jobs again. My goal is to take interesting stuff, ideally things that take 1 to 3 days, 4 days, but just stuff that's really interesting that I haven't done before. The thing, I have a lot of B-roll stuff too, where I don't feel it's good enough to publish on my channel. So it's like, kind of like, what do I do with it? And I've been even labeling stuff that way lately too, like, B-roll, because I feel like it waters down the stuff I put a ton of work into. Which it's kind of a shame because I can't, like, so there are people that want to watch anything I record. And there's this fan club on Facebook. I didn't have anything to do with making that. I wasn't even part of it for a while, but I finally joined that, and I started posting like a lot of the B-roll stuff on there, just as unlisted. And but a lot of people say make another channel. So I mean, sometimes there's stuff that's not that interesting. Another video that's coming out. I was saving it for a year. December 1st. I had I mean, like you were saying before about like publishing mistakes. I had on my building project. I had my old crane driving up my hill. Thing. The engine quit at the top of the hill, and the brakes aren't what they should be. And I had to jump out of the thing and roll backwards, flipped over, and I didn't. So I got a video on that I'm gonna publish probably December 1st, because I wanted it to tell a complete story. I ended up moving the crane along to my buddy, who I hope he's got it fixed by now, because I told him, like, dude, I'm gonna publish this video in December if you want, like, because I'm gonna put in the description, like, here's the link to my buddy fixing the crane.
I've noticed that. I've noticed that like
Yeah,
some of the footage is kind of like a couple of years old. You kind of
yeah,
like hold on to it until the right moment.
yeah. I get behind on editing too, so if stuff isn't that good, maybe it doesn't get edited right away. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's easy to record stuff. Um, when it comes time to edit it, or if it's like a B quality. I mean, sometimes I'll post stuff that's like, oh, this is B quality, nobody wants to watch it, and like people love it. I'm like, geez, I guess I should be posting more of it, but yeah, I have a lot of stuff that's just not edited.
So, do you enjoy the editing process?
Yeah, it just takes a ton of time. But yes, I'm still using GoPro Studio, which it's not perfect, but I'm used to using it. So
Yeah, that's the thing with those sort of tools, isn't it? Once you get into that the habit of using one piece of software, it's hard to move on to another.
it certainly is. Yeah, GoPro Studio has it. I kind of want to make the jump to 5K soon, because the new GoPro, I mean, that's pretty much what I use primarily, and the new GoPro records in 5K. The one thing I learned from the past is always, I used to like put the cameras on low settings or whatever, like, oh, I'll save hard drive space or whatever. Now it's like, and a bunch of years goes by, and like, hard drives are 10 times or more the size they were, years ago. And I kind of wish, I had just cranked that camera up to its full capability. So everything I record now is in 4K. I kind of want to make the jump to 5 soon, but that's GoPro Studio is kind of the bottleneck on that. Actually, I think even YouTube is too. I don't know if you go to upload in 5K to YouTube,
I think
what that
it's
does
only
yet.
4K at the moment. One of the things I was
Yeah.
thinking for your footage and stuff, just an idea is, have you considered Patreon?
Yeah, I feel like that's begging, and people do ask
Right.
me that pretty often, and I've always said no. I'm not gonna beg for money. I don't want free money. I don't know. It just doesn't. It's a handout. I don't know. It just doesn't seem. I don't know if the word's manly or whatever, but it doesn't seem like money. I mean, it doesn't feel like money I earned.
Right, okay.
So that's why I've never taken that. I mean, I could change that if I really don't want it to, because I'm sure that would uh, I'm sure that would be quite a bit, because I've had a lot of people saying, "Oh, let's." I remember one time too. I was putting these videos on my old truck, and someone's like, "Dude, let me buy you." I mean, I don't know how the guy's position was, and how well off he was, but he's like, "Let me buy you a new pickup truck." I'm like, "Nah, dude, come on, that's too generous of a."
Wow.
I don't want handouts. That's kind of how I.
Just the way you've been brought up, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that 100%. Some of those attachments that have shown up in videos, I don't want my videos to be commercials at all, but people have given me stuff like, "Hey, you want this?" It hasn't been anything spectacular, but a few of the skid steer attachments that have come recently have just been, um, like, "Hey, if we see your videos, you're cool. I think this could help you out." One example, that mixer, that was probably the best thing that was handed to me. That cement. I actually wanted one of those too, and then the company reached out to me like, "Hey, we think this would be perfect for you."
So it's definitely opened some doors for you.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't jumped on all of them at all, but I'm sure I'm missing the amount of people that want to talk to me just from those videos too is a little overwhelming. So I'm sure it's not everyone. I have people got like annoyed or whatever. Talking to them. It's like, dude, the amount of people that want to talk to me, I could spend all my time just playing on that phone, responding to messages, respond. So I limit to that to a certain amount of time per day. I did this one with you. Like it's there's other people I wanted to do. People have offered to pay me money for interviews and stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that. That's weird. I mean, I don't know, but at least something like this, I feel like, oh, I can reach out to a big crowd of people or whatever, and maybe answer a bunch of the commonly asked questions.
How's that fame gone down with you, then? Has it been a little bit uncomfortable?
No, no, not really. It's all right. It's all right. I don't want to use the word fame. Sometimes you're out somewhere and someone's like, "Hey, I watch you on YouTube." That's fun. It's fun to meet people like that.
So what kind of career questions have you got asked that maybe you want to answer in this?
Um, oh, that's a good question. I think we've covered some of them, but I'm trying to think of. I liked your question, like, oh, what do you want to continue doing in the future? I mean, I guess I mostly answered that. It's going to be more. Yeah, I mean, I could put some crazy projects out there too, like that I kind of want to do that may not get done. Like I wanted to get this. I'm trying to buy this other piece of property, and I'd love to build a small version of my building. I think that'd be fun.
Okay.
I know people would love that. So, and when I built my first building, the castle, I didn't film it from day one. So in this case, I could start. Like I may do things a little bit differently, and then film it from day one. So that's a project I'd like to do.
So kind of the things you've learned from building that and the lessons that maybe you do things a bit differently.
A little bit. I don't feel I made any mistakes on that building. If I was to build that building again, exactly. If someone else wanted that same building, which I think makes sense. I think that is a very practical building to build. It wouldn't be much different. The only thing I'd maybe do a little bit different, because I knew it was going to be, that hot. Right now the thing's like 4 stories. I knew it was going to be 4 stories, but it was 2 stories for years before it was 4 stories. Like I'd maybe build the framework a little differently if you're going to do the 4 stories in one shot. But it's not really making it different. It's just.
What's the reason for wanting a smaller building? Is it that's why I was asking about doing things different? Was it the practicality of heating it?
No, no. I thought it'd be fun to build like a little mini castle. It's just like almost a scaled down version, but I was gonna do more concrete, more poured walls. That's something I kind of want to get into, is concrete form stuff.
So tell me a day in the life, Andrew, like for the people who, because you said something earlier about coming across lazy, and I certainly don't think you come across as that in any of your videos. What kind of time are you waking up?
I'm not an early person. Usually 9 or so,
Right, okay.
maybe 10. I mean, sometimes earlier, depending. But I'm not an early bird at all. Yeah, I mean, as far as day in the life, I don't know. I start to have breakfast and then just go outside and start doing whatever the job is.
Right, so is there a plan in your head?
Yeah, I'll actually. That's one thing I do pretty often, is I'll make notes of what I need to be doing. I just make lists of stuff to do. Just list and just cross them out as they get done. So.
And how long are you working for? Because you say about like doing your editing in the evening.
Well, now the days are shorter, but it really depends on the day and the job that's getting done. But yeah, I mean, today I knew I had this, so I came and got ready for it. But I mean, usually usually there's plenty of editing to do. So like once it gets dark out, I just start editing.
So you work with like the seasons by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, what is it then you do to relax? Is it editing or is there, because I know you do your jet skiing and you go off on your ATVs and things like that. Is there anything else that people don't perhaps see? That your passions are.
I probably have. I mean, I've watched TV sometimes. I've maybe watched 20 minutes of TV before bed.
Yeah.
Just stuff on YouTube, mostly educational stuff, but not always.
Yeah, you don't really come across as much as a TV watcher, to be honest. Andrew, it's been lovely chatting.
You're welcome.
Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Cheers. Bye bye.